Any movie that brings back the cha-cha slide is okay in my book. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about Pixar's 25th feature film, 2022's animated fantasy comedy, Turning Red. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Turning Red stars the vocal talents of Rosalie Chiang, Sandra Oh, and Ava Morse, and was directed by Domee Shi. It tells the story of 13-year-old Mainely Lee, who discovers that strong emotions cause her to transform into a giant red panda. It's hard to believe, but Turning Red marks Pixar's 25th feature film. However, unlike Disney's 50th release this past year, Pixar's milestone was reached with very little fanfare, and frustratingly, was the third consecutive Pixar film to go straight to Disney Plus rather than theaters. For me, Pixar is one of the most consistently excellent studios. I truly love the vast majority of their films, and even their weaker releases are comparatively pretty good in the grand scheme of animation. These films frequently get the tear ducts flowing, and they almost always balance humor and heart to produce excellent movies. With that said, Pixar trailers almost never do it for me. So when Turning Red's trailers did absolutely nothing to get me interested in the movie, I was neither surprised nor concerned. I had confidence that Pixar would work their usual magic, and they did, mostly. Pixar excels at taking big, important, and oftentimes extremely intangible themes and converting them into something digestible, relatable, and entertaining. There's been so many focal topics over the last 27 years and 25 movies. Coming of age has been a frequent theme, and we've even seen it through a female lens before, most notably with Riley from Inside Out and Merida from Brave. But this is Pixar's first film that's unequivocally and unabashedly about puberty. I mean, technically it's about a 13-year-old girl who turns into a giant red panda, but the allegory is hard to miss. Pixar has long been able to use extremely specific stories and characters to deliver broadly relatable messages. Many of these stories have clearly originated from very personal experiences. Luca being a great example, with much of its inspiration stemming from the childhood memories of director Enrico Casarosa. And Turning Red is yet another one of these personal films with very specific details, coming straight from director Domee Shi's own experiences. Magical Red Panda aside, there's definitely an autobiographical nature to the story. It seems like that particular aspect of the film has generated a bit of controversy, with some people viewing it as exclusionary and unrelatable to anyone but the director herself. But I think the multiple layers of super specificity actually have the opposite effect. At its most base level, Turning Red already tells a story that's broadly relatable. Everybody was 13 at some point, or will be in the case of younger viewers. Everybody went through puberty and had to deal with all sorts of changes, had to learn to control their emotions, had to figure themselves out. So anybody seeing this movie can check that level of relatability off the list right away. And for some people, that may be the only check mark on their list, and that's okay. But others, with a lot of relatability checks, are gonna feel like this movie was tailor-made just for them. And that's where some of these seemingly oddly specific elements come into play. This movie focuses on May, a 13-year-old Chinese-Canadian girl living in Toronto in 2002. She's an only child and faces a lot of family and culturally based pressure, but she's goofy and confident with that aspect of herself. So yeah, it's really specific. But there are different layers here that make it satisfying in different ways for different people. Like I said, the whole being 13, going through puberty thing, everybody gets that relatability checkmark. Women will be able to give another check. People who were 12 or 13 in 2002 will be able to give another check. Canadians, those with Chinese ancestry, those who experienced family or cultural pressure due to expectations, there are a ton of specific things in this movie. So you might end up with just that one relatability checkmark on your page, or you might have a whole bunch. Again, this is a very personal autobiographical story, so Domee Shi's gonna be the only one with all of the check marks, but that doesn't mean Turning Red's themes and messages are any less broadly relevant and relatable than those of any other Pixar movie. All of these different layers of specificity resulted in a lot of firsts, not just for Pixar, but for animation in general. We've seen plenty of coming of age stories, and we've had some told through a female lens, but never like this. I'm pretty sure this is the first time in an animated movie that I've seen mention of periods, or of pads and related products. It's not like they're a focal point of the story or anything, but they're there. And when you think about it, it's crazy that this is the first, or one of the first animated movies to mention them, because they're just such a normal, everyday part of life for women. So it's absurd how stigmatized it all is, and refreshing to see briefly normalized here as just a matter-of-fact part of puberty and coming of age. Another part of this that I really appreciated was the female friend group, and just the general friend dynamic at play here. There are obvious exceptions to this, but it feels like all too often when teen and preteen girls are focused on in movies, there's this degree of cinematic artificiality. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely teenage girls out there who are obsessed with clothes and makeup and boys and are very catty in that mean girl style. But in my experience, I would say most teenage girls aren't like that at all. Yet that's how they're usually presented in movies. So I loved how this movie showed a group of girls who were just their weird, normal, goofy selves. I really liked some of these friend characters. Miriam was my favorite, but I also liked Priya too. The group dynamic and friendship here felt so natural, and when you look at the crew of this movie, pretty much all of the people in charge were women, and it shows. It comes across. And I think that was an important thing for telling this particular story. So obviously, you can probably tell that I think all of these thematic elements were standout aspects of this film. But what about the rest of it? I think this movie is really creative. The premise and the magical red panda transformation stuff was interesting, but I will say that the story, the actual story beats and plot, were just okay to me. Certainly not bad, but not a standout element either. Once the rules of the world and concept were established, I could tell where this movie was going, and pretty much exactly what it was going to do. Predictability with story beats isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just wish the movie had a little bit more to offer plot-wise. When you watch the film, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's kind of got a premise and thematic side, and then a plot side, and that plot side is where it's lacking for me. Stylistically, this is a bit of a departure for Pixar. It still has impeccable animation and really wonderful character design. Hair and fur in this movie are both stellar. There's one scene where a character with fur is crying, and you see the tear tracks through the fur, and it's amazing. It's so tangible, but still very cartoony. So that's typical of the studio, but where it starts to depart is with the incorporation of some anime elements. Emotion is a very big thing in this film, so when characters show emotion, it's really exaggerated in that anime style. Similarly, a lot of the action sequences take on that same type of animation style. But even beyond the animation itself, this is a little bit different for Pixar. It is extremely energetic. More specifically, it's frenetic, and that style comes on really strong at the beginning of the film, almost to the point of abrasiveness. There's this sense of overconfidence, both from our main character, but also from the general style of the film. The movie starts with a fourth wall break, and May addressing us directly in a very snappy, hyper-stylized way. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little concerned at first. It took about the first act or so for me to get into this movie, but luckily that initial semi-abrasive overconfidence is not representative of this movie as a whole, or even of this main character. So if that start is a bit off-putting for you, just know that it improves from there. I do also want to point out how perfectly this movie nails its time period setting. This story is set in 2002, which may seem kind of randomly specific, but again, this is based on the director's own life. The main character of this story is 13, and I was 12 that same year. And so this movie has so many random little details that are just incredibly nostalgic for me. I was not into the boy band craze, but it was definitely an omnipresent thing at the time, so that was entertaining to see on the screen. But there's so many other things in this movie that are background detail level that just take me back. Tamagotchis, jelly bracelets, slap bracelets, those stupid plastic tattoo choker necklaces, stuff we were all wearing, burned mix CDs, even some of the music in this movie. There was some Destiny's Child in there, and even the ultimate early 2000s dance song, the Cha-Cha Slide. We certainly used to cha-cha real smooth back in the day. So, as expected, I ended up enjoying this movie more than I would have guessed based on the trailers alone. It's not a top-tier Pixar movie for me, probably lower middle tier, and it wasn't as emotionally striking or tear-jerking as I would have hoped, but it's certainly a film that I liked and can appreciate. The topics and themes that this film tackles are very strong, and I hope and think that this movie may be a bit of a turning point when it comes to the types of stories being told by major animation studios. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro has gotta be the themes. And not just the topics at the center of the themes, but also the way they're presented. Thematic strength is nothing new for Pixar, and even some of the basic themes touched on in Turning Red have popped up in the studio's other films. Coming of age is a popular topic for these movies, as is friendship, family understanding, and self-discovery. But no Pixar film before this has tackled the topic of puberty quite so head-on. It's mostly all interwoven with the story of magical panda transformation and family lineage, but it's there. And there are also some pretty strong mother-daughter story threads that may deliver the expected Pixar tears for some people. Many of this film's themes are presented through a female lens, which is unsurprising given the sheer number of women on the creative team behind this movie, but it still remains broadly relatable. Pro number 2 is the friend group at the center of the story. I feel like many people won't specifically hone in on and discuss this aspect of the film, but it was absolutely one of my favorite parts. If this had only featured May, I'm not sure how much I would have liked it. But by showcasing her friends, Miriam, Priya, and Abby, it helps to both counterbalance and enhance May, which is exactly what friends do. The group dynamic was great, and refreshingly realistic for a foursome of kind of dorky 13-year-old girls. I saw elements of myself and my own friends at the time in these characters, and I think their inclusion and their importance to both the plot and May's self-control does a great job of highlighting just how essential these relationships can be. On the con side, the biggest issue was the plot. Now, this movie has a lot of things going on, but to me, much of it isn't actually plot. I think there's the premise side of things, with the whole red panda situation and the thematic elements, and then there's the plot side of things, the actual story beats that drive the film. And it's that plot side that I just found to be kind of lacking. Maybe I've just seen too many Pixar movies too many times, or maybe I was just that in tune with this movie, but by the end of the first act, I knew exactly what was gonna go on. And while we haven't seen giant red pandas in these situations before, we have seen most of the story beats many times. They're not bad, they're just underwhelmingly out of sync with the novelty and creativity of the premise and thematic side of the film. Con number 2 is the frenetic energy, especially during the first act. Elements of the editing kinda bothered me throughout, but I think the in-your-face sassiness of the opening just came on way too strong, especially when it's not really entirely representative of the film or the main character. The energetic stylistic choices were obviously intentional as a way to try to capture the energy and get into the mind of a rambunctious 13-year-old, but it just drew a little too much of the focus at times. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Turning Red or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Turning Red 3.5 out of 5 paws. It's not my favorite Pixar film, but it will undoubtedly be the new favorite of many. It's a film that tackles new styles and thematic topics while remaining authentic to its real life source in that classic Pixar way. I would recommend Turning Red to people looking for an energetic coming of age story. It's not quite the typical Pixar tearjerker, and it draws upon elements that are fairly unique for the studio, including occasional anime style animation techniques. Women and girls will likely get the most out of the story, and people who also fit into the other specific subgroups and age ranges will probably connect even more strongly with it, but it's just about as accessible as any other Pixar film. If you liked Turning Red, I would recommend Inside Out. This is another wonderful Pixar film that focuses on a unique aspect of a typical coming-of-age story. While not specifically highlighting puberty, it does explore the emotional inner turmoil of a preteen girl in a remarkably broad and relatable way. If you want another allegorical fantasy comedy about puberty, you should check out Teen Wolf. Rather than a red panda, the main character discovers that he's a werewolf and has to navigate life as a teenager while trying to figure out how this animalistic part of his identity fits in. And if you want another female coming-of-age story, you might want to watch Lady Bird. There aren't any fantasy elements to the plot, but it does highlight mother-daughter relationships and the freneticism of being a teenage girl. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Turning Red? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about puberty? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.